cutting off the bottom of my cake first before I do my top. It's only my habit. It's not something that you have to do. But either way, you have to cut both sides off, okay? I don't like to have the brown showing at all. So whenever you cut the cake, you're just gonna see layers, okay? So you're gonna see layer of white cake, layer of buttercream, layer of white cake, buttercream on the top and the sides, right? There's no distracting, delineating brown line in between all of it, okay? So on this bottom one, it's pretty much already flat. So all you're doing is just kind of like shaving it off. So see that? See how that comes off real easy? Okay, so we're already kind of making crumbs, so just be aware of that. Just brush them off. You're gonna hold your hand like this, so your knife is completely flat. If your knife is tipped up or down, that's how you're gonna cut into the cake. So if it's cut down, you're gonna lose a whole big layer of cake. If it's tipped up, then it's gonna be slanted up. Okay. So we're just gonna go around. This is my turning hand, and then this is my slicing hand, okay? So you have to use both at the same time. This one, I'm holding it flat. I'm not doing any turning with this hand. It's all with my left. If you're left-handed, it's gonna be the opposite. Okay. So you notice that I did not cut straight through. I turned the whole time. That's how you end up getting it nice and flat. So only do a little bit at a time. Cut in about an inch or two at a time, and then that way, whenever you get to the center, it will just be nice and flat. So you end up with a nice flat cake. Okay. Draw that off. Flop it over. Okay. So on this one, try to pick out the area where you're gonna get the thickest amount of cake, okay? We're not gonna cut way down here because then we're essentially gonna lose a third of the height of the cake, okay? I'm gonna start right here. So I feel like that's about the best spot. And I'm still doing the same thing. I'm only cutting in a little bit. So since this was this one had kind of a large hump on it, I've got a little bit of brown on the edges. That shaves off pretty easy. So you can take the time to cut that off. But what I'm not gonna do that at the moment because there's a last step. So I'm just gonna leave that like that for the moment. And then I'm gonna do the next one. So do all of your prep work first because this is the dirtiest part. So if you're trying to do this while you've like already got icing on that one, you're definitely gonna end up with crumbs all over it. Okay. All right, so nice and flat. So the magic is just not doing it all at the same time, so don't try to go all the way straight across. I'm just gonna cut in to the side. Let's go straight across. Okay. All right. So this cake actually has some mixing problems. You can see the holes in it. That's called tunneling. So there was some pockets in here, possibly as a result of not scraping the bowl enough on the bottom. These little pockets are areas where the gluten was developed more. So this is a good example of what they call tunneling, where the gluten was tight and whenever the steam came through, it didn't go out evenly, it burst through in tunnels. So. All right, so when you're preparing to actually get ready to put the icing on, your last step is to get all of the brown off the sides. Okay. So I just kind of pick where I think it's gonna be. and I just cut off most of the brown, okay? So if this cake is, say, going to maybe a buffet, maybe you're setting up an Easter buffet and there is gonna be, you know, 7 different types of cakes out there. If there's a little bit of brown on it, probably no one's really going to notice all that much. If you are going to competition and you're going to present it for like an ACF where you get medals and things, there can't be a smidge of brown on it whatsoever, okay? So just kind of know your audience. If it was a wedding cake, something where they're gonna take pictures of it, maybe they're gonna look at the inside of that cake forever in their photo album, make it perfect, okay? So kind of just depends. All right, so size up your cake now. I feel like it's just a little bit lopsided. So this side here is just a little bit higher than the other. So I'm just shaving that off a bit. So it's kind of like building a house. Like if you don't have a good foundation on it, then there's no hope of your house ever being, you know, stable and sturdy.
Level. Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. So it's not big changes, but it's changes that will be evident, you know, whenever you put on the next layer, which is the icing. Okay. So if you were going to include a simple syrup for moisture, so simple syrup is just 2 parts of sugar to 1 part of water. Essentially you boil it and then you use it as something to retain moisture. You can also add flavor with it. So it's very popular to put like liqueurs and stuff in your simple syrup. So maybe you could have like a Kahlua chocolate cake or Frangelico or something. Makes it really delicious. Also, Chambord strawberry is raspberry flavored. So there's lots of different options out there. So I'm gonna get a bag because I want to show you also how to add a filling. So since we are essentially done with this portion, I'm gonna clean up all the crumbs so that my station is nice and crumb free before I actually start icing. So if you've got a nice little pile here, it really cuts down your time to keep things clean. Can someone pass me a sanitation towel?
Yeah.
She has one. All right. So never try to work in like a big pile of trash, right? Try to get it out of there. Anything that you're not using, keep it off of your station. Sometimes it's hard to remember when you're just starting because you're worried about just doing a good job on like whatever you're making. But your work habits are just as important as you know, whatever products you're trying to make in class. We're not making cake pops today. All right. So starting out, you're gonna use a jam or a different colored icing or a mousse or anything in the middle, pastry cream. What you need to do is create what's called a dam. It is what it sounds like. It's like you're just trying to keep things from flowing out. So what's the point of this? It's to keep stability on the side of the cake. Also, it keeps whatever color it is on the inside of the cake. Okay, so for instance, strawberry jam, right? We fill this whole thing with strawberry jam, and then just put the top on. Whenever we're icing with the buttercream on the outside, guaranteed you're gonna get streaks of strawberry, right? It's gonna break your heart. You're gonna say, man, I wanted the outside of my cake to be all white. Now it's got strawberry streaks in it, okay? This maintains the structure and keeps the color on the inside, okay? There is some strawberry jam inside the storeroom next door. Do you remember where it is? Yeah. It was like in like quantity class. Either one of you, do y'all remember? No,
it's on the shelf in that storage room, straight, and it's on the left.
Yeah, so yeah, you'll see it. It's on the left, I think. Yeah. Like midway. Okay. So did you put the damming and stuff still spilled out? It could be because the icing was too soft. So if that occurs, or like if the icing squishes down a lot whenever you put the top on, it would probably be best to let it set a little bit, get firm in the refrigerator for a while, and then proceed with the next step. So most likely it was just too hot. Yeah. It's icing things with buttercream really kind of takes like a colder room. Honestly, it's kind of hot in here right now to be working with buttercream. It's also very humid, so that can definitely have an effect on like the finished product. Yeah. So, and like your roses and stuff, like y'all saw that. The whole cake slid. Yeah. Right. I think he might be lost.
So today, can we add?
Yeah. So I have 2 jars of strawberry jam. There he is.
Oh, that's exactly what I used.
Yeah.
You had 2? I thought I only saw one on the shelf. I thought you used the other one.
We used it all. That's right. Yeah. So you don't have to. What you could also do is just take some buttercream and like mix in a flavoring. So like we have coffee extract and we have some other extracts. So you can just have it like a flavored filling. Okay.
So I did exactly that, but I think
yeah,
it's just hot.
Okay, yeah, it's probably. Yeah. Also, your cakes have to be very, very cold. So your cakes should not be right out of the oven. It's best to make your cakes the day before at least. It gives all the cells in the cake a little bit of time to actually like set their structure. And then also it's not going to melt your buttercream. So your buttercream's very, very sensitive. So this one actually has like chunks of strawberry in it, which is good. You don't want to put too much, especially with a jam that's like this, where it's like kind of runny. They make bakery jams that are very, very thick, and those you can make kind of like a thicker layer with it, but you kind of just have to judge the viscosity of the thing that you're working with, okay? So I flipped it upside down because the bottom is always gonna be like flatter than the top. Okay, so that looks like a good start. Let me get that out of there. Okay. So, I take a really big dollop.
A dollop.
A dollop. This is a dollop. Texas sized. Of your buttercream, okay? So when you hold your spatula, you're gonna hold it with the most amount of control, okay? Do not hold it back here. You have no control over this and you're not gonna make things smooth. Your finger goes here in the bend. This is why they made offset spatulas. Don't ever try to use a straight spatula, they're stupid. I don't know why someone even invented that. That had to be like the precursor. They're like, here, try this. And then somebody was like, nah, here's a much better design. Okay, so you're going to feel a little bit awkward in the movements that you're doing, okay? Because this is completely flat, okay? So what I'm doing is it's not completely, it's straight against, but it's not flat. Does that make sense? So I'm pushing the icing, but my spatula is not flat on it. So as long as I'm pushing, I'm not applying a whole lot of pressure, but I'm just kind of pushing the icing where I want it to go. So kind of maintain the height of it, you want to be real careful about like actually going down to the point where you hit cake, okay? And then to put on the side, there's a couple different ways to apply it. You can either just grab it like I just did with the spatula, or you can use the bag. So that's another option. Some people like to do this because it helps them gauge like how much they're applying. And then they just go back with the spatula and the bench scraper. So when I'm icing, I turn my whole entire body, okay? So that my elbow is like way up here, so that I can actually get the spatula straight up and down. So that is your first, that's your first round. You go around the whole thing like that. And then you come back with the bench scraper. So you just kind of, what I'm doing right now is I'm just looking for indentations. So points where it isn't going, like if I run something against it, what am I not gonna smooth out, okay? So there's a few parts here that are kind of, I got some valleys, I just need to fill them in. So do that first. Also build up the side of the cake here on the edge. This is where people have the most problem because they don't have enough. So like here, I wouldn't go ahead and start scraping yet because I don't have enough here, and what's gonna happen is gonna have these slumped over shoulders on the cake, and you're gonna keep trying to fix it by taking more and more and more off when the solution is to put more on, okay? So we just need to make sure that we've got enough here, and then we can go through with our bench scraper. Okay, so just kind of get a rough shape going. All right. So this is just a regular, this is a cake comb. It's about $2 at Hobby Lobby or at a restaurant supply store. So I am actually running the cake comb along the bottom of the cardboard while I take off the top layer of icing. This will allow you to get a really nice straight edge. Anytime you go back in with your cake comb, it needs to be a clean cake comb, okay? So I always scrape it off, use a towel, whatever you have to do to get it off. I don't like the habit, and you'll see it everywhere. You'll see it all over YouTube. All these home decorators use this as the top. I hate that practice. Please don't do it. Or if you do it at home, just don't let me see it. Just don't tell me about it. It'll break my heart. All right, so my spatula is already dirty, and I'm kind of getting to the point where I want the cake to kind of get cleaned up. So I'm gonna take all the extra off of it. So here, I just want to like knock off that edge, scrape it, then go around, look for areas where we need to take it off. So you're just barely. So the process just repeats until you're happy with it, okay? Go back with this guy, go back with this guy until you've got it just about right. Don't go overboard, you know, just try to get it as perfect as you can. Don't make yourself crazy about it though, right? So, you know, I know everybody gets, you know, all stuck in there like, oh my God, I only see my mistakes, right? I only see that one little spot, that one little grain of crumb in there, you know, and that just ruins your whole day, okay? Look at the whole project. You know, what did you do right? How can we make it better? And we do it over and over and over again until we get really good at it, okay? All right, so grab your cakes and we're gonna go step by step together, and I'll walk around and help you guys, okay?